Welcome back, Nick Lenz. This Comic Corner Classic / Non-Classic. This is episode number 968 and Doubleshot number 861. I got one Marvel trade, one DC trade. Let's first start with the one DC. This trade I just got today. This is Wonder Woman and Justice League Dark: The Witching Hour. This book collects Wonder Woman, Justice League Dark, The Witching Hour number 1. Westlake, and of course, there's another one show with the same name, just like Dark and Wonder Woman, which are number 1, along with Wonder Woman volume, I believe this is volume 5, yes, volume 5, issues 56, 57, and Justice League Dark, volume 2, number 4. Everything in here is written by James Tynion, the 4th. Yeah, the entire thing. Yeah, first time I could think of, he's actually a crossover by himself. I know Scott Snyder is noteworthy for doing this. I mean, it's not the first crossover he's worked on. No. I think, the first crossover he worked at was Night of Owls. Yeah, he worked on that story, but this is the first time he's worked on an interconnected story. Yeah, first time I can think of he's ever done this that I can think of. Yep. The artists on here are Jesus Moreno, Amakia Labquio, Alvaro Martinez Benito, Brenel Pachido, and Miguel Macana. I'm sorry for mispronouncing names, but it seems like a lot of these names are Spanish or Italian. Yep. Now, I should talk about the name, The Witching Hour. The whole thing is about Witching Hour. Basically, Wonder Woman basically becomes this whole story because something happened in the Justice League Dark title. The name itself also, believe it or not, there was a ongoing series for DC Comics called The Witching Hour, published back in 1970s. No, I wasn't allowed when this book came out. But there was a comic called The Witching Hour. Last 24 issues, and yes, it has been collected in trade. A showcase book, mind you. Yes, a showcase book collected the entire series, The Witching Hour. Only lasted about 24 issues before it got canceled. Witching Hour in here is that basically, the whole story for this is that Wonder Woman is basically given this curse mark. And they also fight this thing called the Upside Down Man, which basically is a recurring villain throughout this run. And apparently this thing also almost killed Swamp Thing, burned Demon Flesh off of John Constantine, and turned Detective into basically a puddle. Wonder was basically debriefing just like basically happened the first reissue of Just Like Dark. And the way that Tynion writes the magical community here is quite off-putting. Apparently, they don't like people who are not magic heroes interviewing, basically. Yeah, the way that it's written here is that Wonder Woman... Now, I talked to James Tynion about this. He basically wrote the magical community on purpose like this, where they basically treat Wonder Woman as an outsider on purpose. Yes, he did this on purpose. Because, well, Wonder Woman's basically a celebrity, and they probably think, oh, magic users be in the dark or whatever. Yes. And the whole point of the Justice League Dark team is about basically the magical threats. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole purpose. Though this is basically a branch of the Justice League. And now in the previous volume of Justice League Dark, the Justice League Dark team was simply put a group that worked for Argus. Yes, they were a team sanctioned by Argus. Not like their own official strike. Not their own official Justice League, but they were basically a team who worked for Argus. They're an offshoot of Argus. This is basically connected heavily to Justice League itself. I kind of wish that Tynion would increase the membership. I mean, there's a few people I could probably see added to the team. Well, aside from Swamp Thing, I could see they could have maybe Blue Devil. I mean, Black Orca shows up in here, and she was actually part of the previous volume for the series. Yes, she was. And we also have Cersei show up in here. Yes, Cersei, making her first appearance in quite a while. I think her last appearance prior to this, off the top of my head, was in... I'm trying to remember. I think it was in the pages of Supergirl, I think it was, where her last known appearance. Yeah, that was the last time I could think of Cersei show up. Though I should point out, though, Cersei, when you first see her, is actually her debut look. For when she first showed up, I thought it was in the pages of Superman Wonder Woman's first appearance. That's actually no on that part. Yes, her first appearance, believe it or not, was actually not in that very comic book. Nope, it was actually an issue of Men of War. Yes, Men of War. And this is her technically you might consider this to be her post-Flash Away attire. Yes, this look right here. That is basically what she looked like in all her previous appearances. Yeah, apparently now she and Wonder Woman are close friends. I don't know why they're close friends, but they are. Yeah, apparently Wonder Woman's trying to make friends with her own villains. I mean, first it was the Cheetah, then it was Gigant, and of course then it was Cersei, and most recently it was Giganta. I mean, who's next? I mean, I highly doubt she's gonna form friendship with frickin' Psycho Man. I highly doubt that. Those know who the heck Psycho Man is. He's basically a short man, a very, very short man who has telepathic abilities. And I'm thinking though, oh yeah, and those who be curious, though, is this guy kind of like the Purple Man from Marvel Comics? Yes, except Purple Man is a normal-sized man, while basically the Psycho Man is very short and he uses telepathic abilities to manipulate people to whatever the heck he wants. Kind of like the Purple Man, though Purple Man does it by basically using his words. Psycho Man actually has actual physical powers. So, very similar character, except that Psycho Man dated back in the 40s, while Purple Man dated back in the 60s. Similar character, but not exact. Yes. We also have the Sisters of Fate show up in here, and they look completely different to how they were depicted when Meredith Finch was writing the character. Yes. The Sisters of Fate. Which, now, here's what I know about these characters, what I remember when they last showed up. They apparently were killed, and apparently Donna Troy took their place. Apparently, that team decided to retcon that and have be alive here, even though they're dead. Yes, that's they were killed. And Donna Troy is no longer the person who controls fate. Okay. Oh yeah, and Dr. Fate has gone nuts. Nebu is basically corrupt. And he's basically taking Kent Nelson's body for a frickin' joyride. I should point out, though, not the first time Nebu has done this. He's actually done this several times in pre-Flashpoint because Nebu could be a dick. That's basically how Nebu is. Yeah, Nebu is simply a sorcerer who's also has connections to Hawkman. Yes. Yeah, it's mentioned by Hawkgirl in here that she is known, well, Dr. Fate for thousands of years, which is true. And of course, Cersei, it's mentioned here Cersei is, believe it or not, over 1,000 years old. Now, at least TNF knows how to write her better than, let's say, Will Pfeiffer. Yeah, I had nothing against Will Pfeiffer, but screw Amazon Tech. Terrible miniseries. Got good artwork, though. Terrible miniseries. Yep, they actually do deal with this in here, and she gets cured. But for some reason, the power of this mark of the Hackcorn, I think you pronounce it, by the end of the story, gets transferred to Cersei. I have no idea why this is, but okay. But yes, this is a fun little event, and I do recommend it. It's basically, and I gotta give high praise to EC for doing this. Not the first trade they've done this, where they have a crossover trade, and here's the thing. They don't have multiple trades collecting the same story. Like, for example, take a look, let me talk about a good example. The Culling. Is it collecting just one trade? Nope, it's actually mostly collected in 4 trades. This is the only trade for the Witching Hour. The only one, though there's going to be a payback version coming later. And here's the thing. In the first one, Justice League Dark, they actually skipped over issue 4 because it's part of the story. Excuse me, the first crossover I actually seen like this in the past few years, where they just have just one standalone trade, both hardcover and paperback, where they have the entire story in one trade, instead of also not only having a trade, but also split books for no explained reason, just because they wanted another volume. Yeah, the first one I seen like this was Night of the Monster Man. I'm gonna give this book a 9.5 out of 10. I'm trying to think, was there any event like this? Let's see. They did this for Dark Knight's Metal. Yep, they did it for that one. They did it for the Lazarus Contract. They definitely did it for the Button. Yes, the Button. They had one trade for that one. I'm trying to think, was anything else? For crossover trades, oh yeah, Super Science Tomorrow. That was another one. But yeah, I at least gotta praise the fact that you have just one trade, not a whole boatload of trades collecting the same story. Well, one part of a story. That was probably for a lot of people the biggest critique about the New 52 trades. is they had a reputation for doing this, where instead of just skipping over these issues because of a crossover, they put them all in there. No rhyme or reason, they just basically shoved the trade on the shelves. At least nowadays, DC actually is more conservative when it comes to trades. Because you have one trade as opposed to three. Actually, four. Well, it actually is three for this one because you would have this, Justice League Dark, and Wonder Woman. Now, I haven't reviewed the Wonder Woman trade that basically gets up to this far, but I'm hoping the library eventually does get it. Also, you gotta love these trades. This trade also has, like you can take out the cover, and this is what the cover looks like when you don't have the desk cover on. Yeah, here's the front cover. Here's the back cover. And yes, this does happen. Basically, Just Like Dark does fight Wonder Woman here. Yeah. They also have Deadman show up in here and John Constantine. Now, Tinian himself did tell me that John Constantine is still going to be heavily part of this run, but he's not technically part of the team. He's basically working with them, but he's not on the team. I'm hoping at one point he does because it can't be just like talking about John Constantine. He was in pretty much the entire volume, almost the entire thing. I think he missed like 2 issues, and that was toward the end. But generally, he was in the entire series, which was quite something for him. Alright, next up is the final trade that collects this Rare's run from this very series. This is Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, Guardians Assembled. Written by Brian Michael Bendis. Artwork by Nick Bradshaw. Though Nick Bradshaw does the main story. Yeah, Nick Bradshaw just does... Now, the issues in here are the free comic issue that came out in 2014, issues 13 to 14 of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Captain Marvel, the first issue of the first volume featuring Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, and a story from Missing Spider-Man 654. Nick Bradshaw does pretty much the main story for Guardians Assembled. Yeah, he does pretty much the entire thing. The backup stories, the 2 of them. Now, Bendis pretty much writes everything in here, except for the 2 backup stories in issue 14. Groot Tale is actually done by Andy Lenning, artwork by Phil Jimenez. Dan Abnett does Fight for the Future, artwork by Gerardo Salvador. Basically, the Fight for the Future story, that's a story featuring the Guardians from the future. Yeah. As for Groot, that's just a Groot story. Yep. Yeah, let's see. Was there anything else in here? Oh, yeah. The rebirth, basically, from Amazing Spider-Man 654, that's actually Flash Thompson's first time he becomes Agent Venom. Of course, Captain Marvel, of course, is done by writing is done by Kelly Suhanik, art by Dexter Troy. Also, they have back of the trade here. Yeah, this right here is the cover for issue 15. Yeah, when this issue came out, it was implied that Captain Marvel was going to show up in the issue. Nope, she is nowhere in the issue at all. Yeah, it was also teased in the free comic day issue that both Captain Marvel and Age of Venom are going to join the Guardians. That was basically announced, basically for the free comic day issue, but only Age of Venom did. Captain Marvel is nowhere in the issue at all. She does not make a physical appearance, and not even mentioned. I mean, she shows up in the first issue of the storyline. On the last page, she's absent for the next issue, and then she shows up in issue 16 and 17. After that, she disappears for a good chunk of the volume until she shows up her freaking black vortex. Yes, for someone who's supposed to join this team, she did jack freaking squat for this team. It's not involved in this storyline. She does virtually nothing. Yes. Now, here's the thing about this storyline. Okay, the whole thing, the free comic day issue, is that you have Tony Stark talking to Flash Thompson about going into space. He's already an Avenger anyway, so why not join the space version of Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy? So, he's offered, and he says, how can I say no? And of course, he tells the people, like, he said yes, and here comes the Guardians. The 5 of them. Which at this point is just members are prior to, when Flash Thompson, aka Age of Venom, joins the team. It's basically the line from the movie, the first film, which is Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Rocket Raccoon, Drax, along with Angela, who by the way is actually in this entire storyline. She's in here Doesn't do very much. I kind of forgot she was in here. But if I remember correctly, after this storyline, she is no longer part of the series. She does return in the following volume, but this is the last time she's part of this. She's part of this. She's on the line for this team because she's absent for the rest of the volume, and she doesn't show up until I think it was the storyline just before the Guardians had to go back to Earth because of Civil War II. Yep. The storyline here is this. The Guardians have been kidnapped and sort of forcibly considered to be disbanded. Now, Star-Lord was taken to his father. Groot was taken to the Brood. Rocket Raccoon was taken to the Kree. Let's see. Drax was taken to Sheer Empire. Oh yeah, he had this thing where he kept challenging Drax. And he kept saying no, and he called Gladiator a coward, and Gladiator does nothing. Yeah, and here's what basically Star-Lord basically does. Now, eventually he does break free of being a captive, confronts his father, and somehow ends up on the whole Capital Planet's like TV screen, and tells everybody about his scheme. The fact he kidnapped the Guardians and tried to basically force a humiliation on them, and basically also expose all of his crimes because he knew how much of a terrible person he is. Yep. And this leads to people chanting, "Death to the Emperor!" Yep. He gets pretty much deposed in the storyline. Yeah. Venom is basically on the space station Nowhere, and he gets confronted by the frickin' Skrulls. Yeah, the Skrulls pop up in here as well. Oh yeah, and where does Angela and Gamora go to? The Brotherhood of the Badoon, the same people who killed Gamora's people. Yeah, and after they pretty much show him later, like, yeah, Angela gives him a call. It's like, "Hey, Star-Lord, I think it's Gamora. Hey, Star-Lord, can you pick us up? Angela and I are bored." It's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny. But, yeah, this is pretty much like the last trade I had to review. I think this one a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, this book pretty much joins the family titles with the word Disassembled storyline versus Avengers. Let's say I know Mighty Avengers suffer through that, so is Avengers Initiative. New Avengers will suffer through that. Iron Man, surprisingly, has suffered through that. Let's see, I'm trying to think who else. Well, you got the Guardians with this book. Recently, it was the X-Men who suffered through it. Yes, the X-Men. Excuse me. Yep. Now, here's the strange thing about the ending of the storyline. This is a backdoor pilot to the legendary Star-Lord ongoing series. Yes, that's not a joke. That's seriously what happened here. Yeah, Bendis probably knew that Star Wars got an ongoing series, probably because of the Guardians film. So he decided to have basically a setup for that particular series, where you have a character named, where Star-Lord has his main villain in the series is his own freaking father, who goes by Mr. Knife, who was later revealed to be Jae-Sung. Yep. The guy who was deposed as the ruler of the Sheer Empire. Oh yeah, and the end of basically the volume of this, Star-Lord is elected the ruler of the Sheer Empire, but the guy doesn't last very long in the job. After the end of the first arc of the relaunch, he gets removed because he's framed by his closest subordinates for something. Okay, my final thoughts on this run is this is what basically a pretty good run. I mean, yes, is it better than Atlantic run? No, it's not better. It's basically almost just as good as that. Though, I at least got praise Bendis for this. At least he was on the book longer than they were. Yeah, when Denham and Lenning were on the book, they were in the book for 2 years. Bendis wrote Guardians for 4 years. Yes. I mean, if you add it up, basically, he wrote 46 issues and 1 annual. Yeah. 46 issues, 1 annual, and a free comic day issue. Yep. Now, pretty much all the storylines were this. You have the opening story arc, the Cosmic Avengers, which basically has them getting the spaceship that they have, which also they have in the movie, by the way. And they have the spaceship throughout this entire volume. And pretty much most of the next volume as well, until you get to the second to last arc of the run, where in Civil War II, the ship is destroyed. Yep, it's blown up. Yeah, it doesn't exactly. I think it's revealed. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read it. I think if it was somebody who basically blew. I don't remember who did, but that set up basically a couple of different storylines that had the Guardians back to space, and it led to Gary Duggan to go to the book. Yeah, but the most disappointing, of course, after they had the opening arc, they had Angela join the team, and then pretty much Tony left by issue 10. Yeah, he left by issue 10. You have pretty much like a couple issues. Then you have the crossover with all new X-Men, which kind of makes sense because Bendis was writing all new X-Men at that point. So he probably figured, okay, why not have the Guardians crossover with the X-Men? Why not? And then you have this storyline, and then you have the original Sin stuff, which basically that was something Bendis basically was probably asked for a couple years. Like, okay, you have now at the end of Thanos the Imperative, you have Drax, Star Lord, Richard Rider, and Thanos all die at the end of that story, and then like 2 years later, Bendis retcons it where somehow Star Lord, Drax, and Thanos are alive. And I'm sure a lot of people have been asking Bendis this question: what the heck happened to Richard Rider? And that's how my next storyline. Despite the fact it's called Original Sin, the arc has nothing to do with Original Sin at all. I mean, it's only there for a marketing purpose. Yes, it's one of two arcs that have nothing to do with Original Sin. Yes. Yeah, because if you notice how Cap is written in the other books, he is not written the same way as he was written in the main Avengers book. Yep. Let's see. After that particular, now they explained that apparently he stayed in the Cancerverse because it was destroyed, and he was there for roughly about 2 years. Yeah, he was there for a couple more years until toward the end of the previous volume, not the last volume that was published for Nova, but toward the end, Richard Rider basically was revealed to be alive. This was the Sean Ryan's run, by the way. And he gets to the Cancerverse. They fight the Cancerverse briefly, and then like they get sealed off. Richard Rider basically becomes a co-star in the Nova title. Title gets canceled to 7 issues. It still bothers me that Nova. Now the book ended 2 years ago, and that book still has plot threads that have never been wrapped up. Like, what the heck happened with his father? Yeah, that was something. Yep. And then pretty much after Original Sin tie-in, and then we had the awesomeness that was Black. Well, then you had Planet of the Symbiotes after that, and then you had, and of course, during this period of time, like after I think it was after Original Sin, you had the Guardians Team Up series start up. Yeah, this was a series that after the first couple issues, you have pretty much every issue a Guardian team up with someone from Earth. Like, there's one issue, believe it or not, it had She-Hulk team up with Gamora. And some aliens went with She-Hulk by mistake because green skin, probably Gamora. Heck, they've had Drax team with freaking Ant-Man. And here's the thing. Bendis wrote the first 2 issues of that series, but after that, he didn't write anything else for that series. Which is kind of weird. And this series only lasted for 10 issues. I would have thought a series like this would last for a good while because it's a great idea for a series. Yep, it definitely was. And of course, yes, they did have one issue in the Black Vortex, but that was done by John Layman. Excuse me. Then after Black Vortex, you had pretty much the Aftermath storyline, which had, well, Star become the Emperor of this elected Emperor of the Spartax Empire. Then, of course, lead position after the first arc of the next run. And also toward the end of this volume, right here, end of this volume, he proposed to Kitty. Well, toward the end, he proposed to Kitty Pryde, and then for some reason during a time skip, they break up. As for how and why this happened, I have no idea. It's one of several relationships Bendis started. Actually, if you look at every relationship he's ever started in comic books, almost everybody else simply ignores it. The only relationship that's actually stuck because he got these two married is Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. The only couple he's actually has started that has appeared in other people's books. Actually, that the relationship has stuck. I mean, these are relationships he started. He started Clint Barton and Jessica Drew, a relationship that went nowhere. You also have, well, Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde. And yeah, the Star Kitty Pryde series, that for Secret Wars, that, believe it or not, was done by Sam Humphries, the guy who was actually writing the legendary Star-Lord book after Secret Wars for launch as Star-Lord. But so yeah, put on hiatus because of Civil War 2. And then come back afterwards. Nope, complete lie. it was relaunched after Civil War 2 for some strange reason. I don't know why, but it was. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, of course, Rocky got a series. Fantastic series, by the way. Which led to the I Am Groot series, and then Rock Raccoon and Groot. And then eventually a new Rocket Raccoon series, which that led into a Rocket series by Al Ewing. That by far was a really good title. The Rocket Raccoon, the third volume, that was done by Matthew Rosenberg. The second volume, which lasted for 11 issues, that was done by Scotty Young, who wrote and drew the comic. Well, for the first 6 issues, then he basically stuck with writing, different artists. Yeah, but also thanks to the planet. Now, the thing, Legend of Star is not the only ongoing series started thanks to this particular series. The Venom Agent, the Venom Space Knight series, that, believe it or not, was actually started because of this. Yeah, that was started after the aftermath of the Planet of the Symbiote storyline. That Planet of the Seeds, that pretty much was also a backdoor pilot to an ongoing series. Though the difference is, the Legend of Star-Lord title got ended after 12 issues, but was relaunched as simply Star-Lord, but it entered 8 issues. In the case of the book Venom Space Knight, that book ended after 15 issues. Yes. So, you gotta thank Bendis for basically planting the seeds for 2 ongoing series. Thanks to this. Though the whole thing of Angela an ongoing series, that was thanks to Jason Aaron and Al Ewing. They're the ones who helped start that thing. Yep. Yeah, not much else to say about these 2 trades, but they're really damn good. So yeah, that's it for Cycle Review. I was thinking of doing more videos tonight, but I don't think I have time doing more videos tonight. So tomorrow, 2 novel reviews and a review of the newest chapter of My Hero Academia, okay? See you next view. Bye.